Hello, everyone. That was some technical issues and 20 hours of jet lag. So yes, glad to be here. I'm going to speak to you today about Filecoin and restaking. Does Filecoin need restaking? And actually, why? So just before I'm diving into that, I wanted to speak about the original idea of blockchain, right? How it has a very special capacity and skill to actually coordinate people from all around the world and incentivize them on a global level, right? That's why many people today say that the DePIN is one of the core innovation of crypto. And this dashboard is a real dashboard of users, of Lava users. And they're using Lava, probably 90% of them, without even knowing. This is the magnitude of how you create a coordination and orchestration layer, but without the end users to know. And I'm going back to the node operators that they are super important here. And sometimes they're not really rewarded appropriately, right? So just recently we had a big discussion that probably I don't need to elaborate. And we thought in Lava, like, well, what's the main denominator here between those projects? Does someone know? What's the main denominator? Okay, question in the end. So restaking for eigenlayer, definitely. For Blast, you see native staking, native yield on L2s. And with the Friendtech, you see SocialFi, right? So there was a real attempt to do incentivation, a radical incentivation for the end user within using the blockchain. So Lava is using restaking to provide security and high performance on Filecoin. And it's already live. We're live 1 year on testnet and supporting more than 40 different chains. So also Filecoin is live, and 3 months ago, we launched our first mainnet. 3 months ago, first mainnet, and we're already in version 3.2. So the team is working around the clock. But what I wanted to share with you today is the fact that there are already 3 million active unique users using Lava as the backbone of RPC. And basically, we serve during this time more than 80 billion requests, read-write transaction and requests only for Lava. So what is Lava? Lava is an access layer to get RPC APIs and any actually data primitive. You can think about that as a permissionless Amazon for any data, any type of data in Web3. If you think about Amazon, this is actually connecting between consumers to merchants, and you can buy any type of item. So we can think about Lava as data consumers that want read-write transaction. We connected them through the marketplace to data providers, and they can consume any type of data. So there are four-sided marketplace. Obviously, there are the providers. The providers need to stake Lava in order to register to provide a service, monetize their existing infrastructure. Blockchain and rollups, they pay Lava for the services. They create incentive pool, putting incentives, providers joining, and at the end of each month, the provider receives the incentives based on the quality of service. Data consumers, those are all the dApps, the wallet, the exchanges that actually need the data from the blockchain. They're using Lava to consume the data and read-write transaction. At the end of the day, the last piece is the restakers. Restakers are any token delegator contributor that actually can restake their own Lava and provide it to the providers themselves, so they're going to receive more service. So we think about restaking as, if you're familiar with that from eigenlayer, obviously. But the eigenlayer use the ETH to restake and improve the security. So we think about restaking not only for the security, but to incentivize all the community to go and restake to the best performant provider, so the provider receive more service, and those restakers can receive part of the service. It results in a much high performance service. So validators join Lava, and in general, there are two levels of what Lava is doing, the security and the service level. And the security means that the validators need to stake Lava, and they are actually using that to secure the blockchain. Providers are registered, signing up with their node access. They listing their existing infrastructure and actually can stake in order to join any network. If they run a RPC node on Filecoin, if they run on any other blockchain itself. And the delegator are using Lava to restake exactly as I explained before. That's result in a much higher delegator and performance. And why is that? Every provider receives service based on two parameters. One of them is the restake, and the second is the level of performance. So each transaction, the Lava blockchain collects all the data, the latency, availability, reliability, the freshness of the data, benchmarking other provider to see if it's actually the latest block. And this used to score the provider and give them more service if the score was high next time. So our incentives are already live in more than 11 different chains. And this incentive pool is already generated and deployed $1 million of incentives. In the last half a year, the foundation of Lava rewarded back $500,000 to providers, and slowly, or actually fast, they're growing to many different new blockchain. So RPC is only the beginning. And on Filecoin, you can think about that also as an incentive pool to attract RPC provider restakers to serve the RPC. And if you think about that, the data storage, at the end of the day, they need access. As any other chain that wants to attract high-performance developers, dApps, to build on top of them, so anyone needs this data access. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. We running 3 incentive pools in the last half a year on Near, Axelar, Evmos, and now they just joined Stargaze and Cosmos. And we have actually 100% of uptime in the last 6 months. So those statistics are due only to the special architecture that if one provider is going down, automatically we revert you to a new provider. So yeah, I want to leave you with one remark that the new incentive pool for Filecoin gonna be live very soon, and the foundation will announce about that. So I'm here today to meet the providers, to meet restakers, and anyone that wants to jump into the Lava pool. Thank you.
Questions?
This is really cool. Thanks for sharing. I get the intent. Just have a couple of questions to understand better how it works. I guess I'll ask 2 questions. One, do you have any sense, or are there any Filecoin RPC providers today that are participating in this? And if not, I'm curious why they're not. And second, I'm curious what the client end of this is like. As a dApp, how am I able to know which RPC provider I should be hitting based off of the metrics that are being collected and stored in the Lava blockchain? Just to help me understand the big picture.
Yes, so we're running on the Lava testnet, Filecoin for a year. Obviously, it's in a less volume and traffic in the last 1 year, but we see great results there. Now, when we're gonna jump in to provide the public RPC pool, the same like public RPC that available in any chain, so we're gonna also promote that using Filecoin, and I guess that more and more providers will join. The dApps themselves, exactly as you ask, they need to think which provider are we speaking with. And this is exactly what we wanted to eliminate. It doesn't make sense when you type in www.google, you don't know which storage you're using. Is it ETH Europe, GCP, AWS, Hetzner, and so forth. So we want to eliminate this part of the stack for the dApps. The dApps are using the gateway of Lava, and automatically they route to the most performant provider.
The gateway acting as a proxy?
Exactly.
Or is it doing a redirect?
It's a peer-to-peer communication protocol. So at the end of the day, the dApp is speaking directly with the providers themselves. And if one provider is down, automatically the gateway realizes that and switch you to another provider to speak and make sure that the uptime is 100%. At the end of this transaction, at the end of this transaction, the blockchain collects all the information. The dApps is signing on the transaction, gives it back to the provider, and the provider needs to go back to the blockchain, sends it in order to get the rewards. This is how we incentivize the honest behavior in general.
Okay, just again, sorry, newbie question. Usually these dApps, if I understand right, are making some sort of HTTP request, right? They're embedding in their Infura or Glyph or whoever. So if I'm setting up my dApp, am I hitting an HTTP endpoint for Lava?
Yes, it's the same way that you would speak with the providers today, but behind the scene, you have a full architecture of load balancing, disaster recovery, reliability, checking that the block height is really from the latest block from the blockchain, and all of this information. So the dApp doesn't need to think, oh, I'm giving my end user the right information. Am I seeing the right information? Maybe the provider has changed, maybe the middleman, you see DNS hijacking and stuff like that. This, we are eradicating the risk of having that using the Lava architecture. Yeah,
cool. So just to really drive this home for me. So in my dApp, what URL am I putting in as my RPC?
Filecoin.lava gateway.
Okay. And then is that giving me an HTTP 302 redirect to go hit someone who's participating in this pool, or are you proxying all the data?
We proxy all the data.
Okay, got it, cool.
So then doesn't it mean that basically one way or another, the user will have to still trust Lava, the data that Lava returns, and basically that Lava's infrastructure will not go down?
So that's a very good question. We have two products. One of them is the gateway that is rate limited. So Filecoin incentivizes the pool. And obviously, if the dApp needs more service, more volume, more throughput, it goes to the SDK. The SDK is an extension directly from the browser that speaks with the provider, not even going through the gateway. So basically, you're fetching a list of providers from the browsers and speaking directly with them. This feature we call constant availability. So even if the blockchain of Lava halts, still you're going to get service. Does it make sense?
It kinda like
you need to see it working in real life. So then you're gonna.
Yeah. Okay. No more questions.
Look, today we already serving 50% of the traffic on Near, which is very, very surprising also for us. And this is in 6 months, again, with 100% availability. And yeah, we are very excited to come to Filecoin. Obviously, there is going to be more interesting and more challenges every ecosystem we deploy. But yeah, Filecoin is one of the first contributors to Lava. And I'm super excited to bring back to the community what it brought us at the beginning.
I always have this question for restaking, anything staking related, but who's using this? Like, who's a primary user of this? And what is their
restaking
experience?
Of the in general?
Of
Lava?
protocols like this, yeah.
Any data provider, any data consumer, dApps, exchanges, when they want to read write transaction from the block, when you're opening your wallet, at the end of the day, it queries the blockchains to get the account balances, the gas fees. So you use providers to do that, and instead of using providers, with MetaMask is Infura, we orchestrate, aggregate all the providers and routes the traffic among them.
But I guess, but what is the experience you're giving to them? Right? Every time I'm querying my data, what is the experience you give to them?
What's the answer?
Because every time somebody, let's say I'm using this, and then I'm just trying to query data, and you're just routing in an efficient way. I mean,
when you say you use
a smart router, but what is the experience you give to them?
It's like decentralized.
I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me, but I'm just trying to understand. Right, because the no, I understand that. Basically, I mean, you mentioned that yes, I'm just like trying to query my data, and then this is really a smart router.
You're trying to understand what problems we solve.
But what is the experience as somebody who's using Lava? What is the experience that I'm getting?
As a DApp, you mean? As a DApp, as a provider, who depends who you're asking in this marketplace. What's the experience as a DApp you use, or as an end user that's using a wallet?
Why not both?
So as an end user, every time you open MetaMask use Infura to go to the blockchain and query the transaction. When you minting an NFT, when you're claiming an airdrop, it's all, the backbone is providers that querying the transactions. So instead of the DApp need to think about, oh, should I use Alchemy today, QuickNode, ChainStack, should I run my own node? By the way, that's what most of them are doing. We take the burden away by implementing Lab.
That doesn't really answer my question, yeah, but I'll hand it off to someone else.
All right. Last little 30-second comment.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering about, are you getting signal from, you mentioned exchanges and those kinds of large scale users. It would be really ideal for them not to have to run nodes, particularly something as heavy as Filecoin. Do you have any signal that you've got large scale users out there that might end up using Lava? Or is this still just you're in a hopeful state that one day you'll be reliable enough and trustworthy enough that would happen?
So I like the question, but maybe because of the jet lag, I didn't give the statistics right. This is being used by very high volume traffics. We're using the hot wallet. We're using Near. We're using Paraswap. We're using even Fireblocks using the service. So like that's in a production level. And the protocol is already generating millions of dollars in revenue for the chain. So that's happened also before the mainnet 3 months ago. And since the beginning of the year, we're live with production-ready service. Now, we're taking all those pools on testnet and deploying on mainnet.
Yeah, thanks.